Welcome back. We are having our second conversation for the morning, and this one is quite an interesting one. We are joined by our friends from the Belize High School. We have a representation of students that traveled to Panama for HACIA. Now, we're going to find out what HACIA is, but we just want to introduce really quickly the students and mentor who is here this morning. We have with us Judy Carillo. She is a mentor and English teacher. To her left is Cortland Woods, award winner, Ethan Fuller, student from BHS, and Anthony Leslie.
Good morning,
thank you
Belize.
so much for joining us.
Thank you so much as well.
All right, so I see we have an award on the table, so that must be good news. But let's just jump really quickly and get an overview of what HACIA or HACIA is. We can begin with you.
All right, so HACIA, the definition for HACIA is Harvard Association for Cultivating Inter-American Democracy. However, that isn't just what HACIA is. HACIA is an idea, an opportunity for youth like us to come together to formulate comprehensive solutions to real-world problems. You have to state your points in HACIA. You have to be there. It isn't just where you go dress up as fancy suits. You are representing your country. You are your country. And right there, we want to show them what Belize is capable of, and we will show them again in the future what we can do. Thank you.
Off the bat, I know that you're probably a debate student. And that's essentially what this is about, correct?
Yes, and just to add to what he said, HACIA is a debate conference that is organized by Harvard undergraduate students, and they offer 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And of course, our students participate in English, and for English, they have 7 committees. And what I was able to appreciate this year as a mentor is that our students participated in 6 of the 7 committees, which provided a variety, and each committee has its own structure. So that makes it a unique experience for each participant. For example, we have PAHO, the OAS Special Mission, the Permanent Council of the OAS, CELAC, which is an acronym for the Spanish version that stands for the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States. We also have a very nice simulation of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. So we had 4 students who were able to act as lawyers or judges. Every year they had a every day they had a different role. So let's say the first day one of them acted as a judge. The second day they would act either as part of the plaintiff or the defense. And then most of the other committees, they get to represent a country, an OAS member state. Or they also have this committee where they can also represent a member of the House of Representatives of a country. This year they chose the Dominican Republic, but we didn't have any student participating in that committee, but it's still a committee that students can get exposure on what it takes to be part of the table where you have to make decisions for the country.
That's interesting to see that we are having young people take part in these debates that essentially speaks to how they would develop as adults in the future. I think it's so important. Beyond that, of course, the life skills that they develop doing these research, doing these presentations. Of course, we hear Anthony over here speaking with conviction. That comes from one, preparation, and believing in what he's saying as well. I want to take the conversation really quickly to Cortland, to my left. You are an award winner, I imagine, from HACIA. Let's talk about your contribution.
So my contribution, I was a part of the CELAC, and that is period poverty and lack of access to reproductive care. And also our second topic was malnutrition. I feel like the conversation was so powerful. It was so amazing to listen to all these people talk about how passionate they are about their country, and forming solutions was so amazing to watch. Because everyone's arguing, trying to get their point across, and everyone's also trying to be heard. So it was really such an amazing experience.
What does it take to prepare for something like this?
Well, of course, you have to do so much research. I'm so grateful to my mentors. Specifically, they've really prepared us since they've done this previously. So we did a lot of research on our topic. I had to look specifically to my country, which was Brazil. So I had to look at what do they currently have in place, how can this be improved? What have they done in the past that hasn't worked out? and what are possible solutions that we could implement in the future.
What was that experience like for you, and how do you take that knowledge or that experience and put it in a Belizean context?
Well, actually, that's a beautiful question, very perfectly asked. The experience for me, of course, it was very nerve-wracking when I first went there. I was so excited and I was so nervous because I've never been a part of anything like this before. And all the students, you know, they spoke so eloquently. It's scary to see how well they speak there. And I'm so glad our mentors prepared us for that. The way that we can apply this into like Belize itself is that it allowed me to create solutions that were not simple. They have to be based off of my country. So I can look at Belize and look at the previous solutions that we've prepared and look at solutions that we can make in the future.
Yeah. Let's take the conversation over to Ethan Fuller, also a representative of BHS and also who traveled to Panama for the HACIA. Let's talk about your contribution.
So my contribution was to PAHO, which is the Pan American Health Organization. And for our main solutions, we looked at 3D printing clinics. And this topic that we tackled was actually, you know, how past pandemics have affected us and how we can improve it. So basically, I looked into something innovative, something forward thinking. We haven't really seen a new way of infrastructure in health. So I decided to look at a cheaper, more cost effective and a more impacting way that gives long-lasting jobs to rural areas and also allows better access for health. So I looked at 3D printing clinics, and it's a very important idea because it helps actually develop rural areas. It makes people actually learn medical health, and it gets them involved in that whole situation. And that's something that I really was passionate about, getting the rural area involved into these types of discussions and ideas. And our second topic was how climate change affects our health. And it's something that we don't really look at as much as we do. We kind of look at climate change and how it affects the world itself, but we don't really see how it affects us directly.
Yes.
So we looked at how we can change carbon emissions into formic acid, and that really changed a lot because that can go into mosquitoes repellent, it can go as tree fertilization, and overall it helps in different areas and it really impacts different solutions.
Wow. What I hear from each and every one of you students that spoke just now is our future seems bright. It really does, because this is so innovative, the way that you're thinking to use 3D printing as a potential solution for infrastructural development in health. And of course, the conversation around climate change and how it impacts health is one that I feel like I've only just started seeing last year, for instance, when we had our COP. So I'm definitely looking forward to us having that conversation about sustainable development and climate change and how it not only impacts our environment, the world by extension, but to bring it to a more personal level, which is our own individual health. I want to take the conversation over to Anthony, because what is really interesting about this delegation here, guys, is that we are surrounded by 2 seniors and a freshman. Anthony is only 14 years old, but he is walking and speaking with so much passion. Anthony, let's talk about your contribution to HACIA.
All right, hello. So I was in the OAS Special Mission Committee. So the purpose of that committee was to mainly target a specific issue or even crisis in a country. So what we did is that we targeted the issue of internal displacement and migration in El Salvador, which has been a pressing issue for decades in El Salvador and has contributed to violence and chaos in multiple other nations. So there are tons of solutions in this committee that was just amazing from the people there. You could clearly say that they were committed and confident. So what solutions that I did was mainly the improvement of infrastructure and housing in impoverished communities to decrease the incentive to migrate and to target the main factor that causes violence in El Salvador, being poverty. And another solution that I also implemented to tackle the current violence, even with Nayib Bukele, is the implementation of a dedicated and educated security force on the situation of those people in impoverished communities. Our main goal was to target the people in impoverished communities who are the most vulnerable to internal displacement and the incentives to migrate. So that's what we did.
Can I get in on the conversation?
Yeah, sure.
So, the situation in El Salvador as we know it, with the gangs and the gang members being incarcerated in mass, right? They have all of these prison facilities that have been built. They're housing thousands of alleged gang members. I say alleged because there's controversy surrounding the fact that not everyone who is locked up is in fact a gang member. Nonetheless, right?
Yes.
While in some parts, Nayib Bukele is praised or celebrated for being able to take a hardline position, in other areas they're looking at it as perhaps rank and outright human rights violations, right?
Yes. So
did you factor any of that into your solution in terms of looking at that big picture?
Yes, so that's another topic that we had to talk about in our community, being the alleged human rights violations. So what we had to look mainly for is alternatives to just the Maduro policies and taking people in the hundreds and such. So that's why we wanted to target the main center that causes violence in El Salvador, being poverty, which would decrease the violence effectively overall.
Judy, let's talk about the overall performance of the student body delegation that traveled to Panama for HACIA. We know that Cortland is an award winner, but let's talk about the overall performance of BHS.
I must say that I'm very proud of the performance of all 18 students. I think this was a year where they had more opportunities to participate in the discussions, because the good thing about HACIA is that no one is going to call you to raise your placard. You have to be ready to do so if you wish to contribute to the discussion. And one of the things that they have to prepare before they go is an opening statement. But it's not guaranteed that they are going to deliver their opening statement if they don't raise their placard on time, as the speakers list has a limit of 10 delegates. And this year I was very surprised and happy that in most committees our students got the opportunity to be in that speakers list. And as I was moving around each committee, because they were all in different rooms, I was able to see them participating, using their notes, because one of the important things that has to do with debate is the use of evidence. So you can raise your placard and say that you want to contribute to the discussion, but if you have nothing to back up your point,
It has to be facts.
then it's not going to be something effective and something that other countries would be interested in collaborating with you. So overall, I would say that they did well. For most of them, it was their first time, so I hope that this experience will motivate them to go again next year if they have the opportunity, because now they know what are the things they should look for. They know in what ways they can improve for another HACIA experience.
You know, when we think of debates, it's something that takes a lot of skill to develop, to be in a place where you have to defend your point, but to also hear other points and to still reaffirm your point is the challenge at times, because your opponent could have factual information as well. How do you converse or dialogue in a debate in that sense when your opponent has fact-based points, but you're also trying to hone in on your point?
I feel like that's something so important. Something that really helped me out was looking at previous statistics in my country. And my one was more not of like a debate where people are against like each other, but more of like we're asking questions about each other's solutions. We're really all trying to work together for a better future. So it's not like anyone would disagree, like, no, women should not have access to reproductive care. It's just everyone's trying to agree, like, along the lines of their country's, like, morals. So something that really helped me out was going back to statistics that have previously been brought up and writing that down. If anyone else said something about Brazil, I would also write that down. And those things, they help me formulate a better way of saying things when I would get up and raise my placard and say, I have something to say.
Was there any fear from, I know that we are only joined by 3 of the 18 students, but did you guys have any fear approaching this conference?
Well, you know, when I first looked into HACIA, I was kind of in over what I was expecting. The first day I got there, I saw all these students, all these delegates, and I was just thinking, wow, they are prepared. They came here and they're not joking around, you know? And I felt a little overwhelmed in terms of how I personally felt, but I kind of worked through that. And after the first opening statements, you know, I was like, you know, I think we have a chance of doing something really great here. And that in total, in general, is just something that like I really learned from, because that experience, you know, it built more aggressive speaking, and I kind of feel like I'm a lot more better speaker, a lot talented in terms of that. And in general, it's just something that I appreciate, because it's like a very eye-opening experience, and it really built a lot of leadership.
Yeah.
So,
Anthony, yes.
Do you believe that perhaps with this takeaway from the experience that it would lead you in a certain direction where you want to go professionally down the road?
yeah, well, looking into HACIA in the beginning, I wanted to do some sort of politics again to human rights, or just in general help my community around it. So this experience kind of even more pushed me into that line and pushed me down into the future. I really want to get into that type of position and role.
That was a similar question that I would have posed to Anthony in particular, because knowing that you were a freshman and obviously one of the youngest, I imagine, from the delegation that attended HACIA, where did your interest come from?
My interests? So I've always loved debating since standard 6, because I had a little debate that we did for a political party simulation. So another thing about fear of the debate conference itself. So you cannot be scared when you are debating. You have to be confident, enthusiastic. If the others see that you're nervous, if they see that you're scared, they see weakness, and they'll try to exploit that specifically. So you need to be confident. As even my mom said, nerves just make things worse. You cannot be nervous. In order to state your points and to reaffirm them when others try to get rid of them by making their own claims, you have to be confident.
Yeah. So what do you want to be when you get older?
When I get older, so I really like aerospace engineering. However, I'm trying to, politics and mainly lawyers or diplomats, I find interest in those as well.
Yeah.
However, even with these debate conferences, you can implement these into other workplaces so that you can be a workplace leader and take initiative in your own workplace.
I have to write down your name, Anthony, because I hope I'm alive when you become Prime Minister.
My God.
If
A lot of people have said
the
that.
last day of committee sessions, they had like a candid awards moment for his committee, and his candid award was future president.
I'm telling you. No, he's
Yes.
I have to write down his name. but guys, I have to say a huge congratulations to you guys at BHS. We know that this school is one that is actively involved. We of course know your name in robotics, but to see that there are other areas where the student body can be engaged and can refine their skills in other areas, it's really impressive to see. So I'll use this opportunity to ask if anyone has any last words.
Well, I would just like to thank you guys for having us on here and being able to talk and inspire maybe other students to join this. Honestly, it's such an amazing experience, not only for the educational, but also for making connections and speaking to other people. There are so many people that I met who are so passionate about what they're talking about. And, it's just really an amazing experience. I really would suggest and recommend to everyone to join.
HACIA is something that is going to help our future. It's helping develop our youth, it's helping develop the leadership positions, and getting into this type of role and getting into this democracy, getting into this position at HACIA, that's something that's going to affect our future for the better, and it's going to help develop all the youths that get involved in it, and it's going to help, have a better future for at least our country.
So firstly, I'd like to thank you guys for having us here, but mainly I'd like to thank my mentors, mainly being Miss Carillo, for assisting us in this conference that went so well, but also my students, the students here that helped me so much. So because here, we are the future of Belize. We're the future. We're going to be the people that are up in the House of Representatives, the political parties. We're going to be the future. We're going to do things for the better of Belize, because that's what we need to do in this Belize, in this country. We need to show the world what we can do. We need to show the world that Belize's future is a bright one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us, and we hope to be back as well.
Absolutely, you're always welcomed.
Thank you.
Well, we got to take another quick break, and when we come back, the conversation switches over to Compliance U. What is Compliance U? Find out when we come back.